So Gary, when did you first hear about the Enzogenol and the professional strength product?
I first got involved with that probably, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, when representatives come around and asked me to do clinical trials on Enzo before they put it on the market as just the Enzo Professional. And we're involved in the clinical trials of that, seeing results and dosages and playing around with that sort of thing to see what results were there and what other areas it could work in. I could start looking at rheumatoid arthritis. One case I've got was also muscular dystrophy, which we got great results with. And just general overall ligament issues, joints, bursa, all those sort of things, basically. He was a young boy, roughly about, I think he was about 8 or 9 years of age. He had basically just been put in a wheelchair because of muscular dystrophy. He had progressed so far that he couldn't walk, so he used the wheelchair most of the time. And it actually worked out really well, because that's when John come around with the sample of Enzo, and I thought, well, I'll give it a try and see what happens. We put him in the Enzo. I think I started off on a dose of 2 twice a day just to see how he'd go. And it was amazing. It only took a matter of 4 days and he was out of his wheelchair. He was walking. Not a lot of strength, but he was walking. We just continued at that dosage. It probably took a period of 2 weeks and he didn't go back to the wheelchair. He was back to riding a bike, playing soccer with his friends, all that sort of thing. That has worked quite well over a period. I think we kept him out of the wheelchair for 2 years. Now he's at the point where he is back in the wheelchair, but we are maintaining the upper body strength for him. The lower body strength is still declining, but we find if we keep the Enzo going, it slows down the progression of the disease state, or the symptom state I should say. As soon as we take him off the Enzo, he does lose more muscular control and strength. So in that sense, it's not fixing the issue, but it's giving him more quality of life. Yeah, we started him on 2 twice a day, and then we eventually got him up to 2-3 times a day. When I started to go 2-4 times a day, because I wanted to try and push the case and see if Enzo could make it go any further, he did start getting some side effects, which are not unusual side effects, they were common. It's ones I've often had with Enzo if I push the case too far. In other words, I give him too much dosage. The symptoms of that basically are you get a bit of stomach burning, easily disappear, you just reduce the dose and that disappears. The other issue I found that he had with it was also that taking it too close to bedtime or in a higher dose, he had a really restless sleep. Reduce the dose and once again everything returned back to normal. So it was nothing of major impact or damage to the body. It was just reduce the dose, and it was in a 24-hour period, things were back to normal again. Generally I find anything to do with generally the muscle tissue, where the circulation's not right or anything like that, or I suppose you can call it the stretchability of ligaments and things like that due to inflammation or possibly lack of circulation or whatever, I find that Enzo works really well. I know myself, if I need to do exercise and I haven't done it for a while, I'll often take 4 Enzos the day before and then 4 the next day, and I don't suffer that muscle fatigue afterwards. It's like the lactic acid disappears. But what I also find, and what a lot of people who've got rheumatoid or osteoarthritis even, or any joint issues as well as muscular, that they also say that their muscles seem to stretch a lot easier without really having to push it. They seem to get more out of stretches, they get more flexibility. On top of that, it does give them a boost of energy, but it's not like taking a dose of caffeine and all of a sudden you feel hyperactive. It's more, if you want the energy, it's there all of a sudden. It appears for you. So it's not like taking a stimulant basically. Yeah, I use it a lot in sports people. I use it in people who do things like yoga and dancing because it gives them that extra flexibility within themselves, so they do progress to a further level in their sport basically, especially people who are doing dancing. They need to be very flexible. So I find it gives them that extra edge, and once the muscles have that flexibility, they can maintain it for a lot longer. The other point I find it in with people who are doing a lot of like bodybuilding and toning, not really the stretching, I often find those people tone up far too much, the muscles become too rigid, and that's where Enzo comes in to allow the flexibility to come in, which then allows them to move so they don't tear their muscles as easily or make strains and sprains either. Yeah, I got a lot of feedback from them. I get a lot of repeat trade people just come up and say, I need some more Enzo because hey, yeah, I'm going into a marathon or I'm going to do some sporting event where I need that extra boost, and they're not taking steroids. Hey, it's only pine bark. So it's not as if it's going to come up my blood test as an issue. So it does give them the boost, but it gives them that extra advantage because they have the flexibility. Now, as far as the people, I remember one lady I treated, she loved dancing, but because of the rheumatoid, she couldn't dance, and the pains and the aches were far too much. She would often just say, hey, I want Enzo so I can take him on the weekend so I can go dancing with my husband again without the pain and the suffering. So to her, it just gave her a whole new lifestyle. Well, I also find the osteopath, he uses them as well for his clients. He finds that oftentimes when he uses them, especially people who are very tight and rigid, that once he's done a manipulation in whatever area he's working on, he finds that the Enzo does actually keep the circulation to that area, so it keeps it supple and it doesn't come out as often. So he finds it helps in that respect. Also the same reasons that I use it for inflammatory areas. Because it's giving the flexibility, therefore the blood's flowing, the inflammation's removing, the fluids are removing, so it's a quicker recovery rate in that sense too. No worries. And if anyone's got any queries, by all means feel free to ring me, because I have had great results with Enzo. Obviously it doesn't work on everyone, like every medication, but if you know where Enzo works specifically and what areas you need to work on, it gives brilliant results.